When you have managed to do 22 of these videos, reviews, a thought starts to come to your mind. A question, which is, how the fuck do you open the next one? Okay, so Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game were both huge successes. Also, I'd like to correct something I got wrong near the end of my last review. I said that the movie game probably wasn't as successful as Battle for Bikini Bottom because I thought that game didn't get any sort of platinum hits sort of releases, you know, like the last game did. Turns out I was dead wrong. The SpongeBob movie game did get Player's Choice on GameCube, Greatest Hits on PS2, and even Platinum Family Hits on Xbox Original. So actually, the game was just as, if not more successful than Battle for Bikini Bottom, as one commenter brought up. So, please ignore the fucking idiot at the end of my SpongeBob movie game review who said it wasn't as successful as the last game, when it turns out that actually wasn't the case at all! Clearly, Heavy Iron Studios were on a huge roll with SpongeBob games. Their two games were both successful and got some pretty positive reviews. But for whatever reason, Nickelodeon didn't instantly give them another chance to make a third SpongeBob game, and they never got the opportunity to make one until 5 years later. Between 2004 and 2009, at some point it was announced that Heavy Iron's third SpongeBob game would be titled SpongeBob SquarePants Happiness Squared, which was expected to be released in 2009 in the usual October, just in time for the show's 10th anniversary. No more information about the game was ever revealed, at least until late January 2010, when apparently a Heavy Iron employee released a trailer they made for the aforementioned SpongeBob game. And after watching the trailer, to be honest, the game looked pretty neat. This trailer isn't too bad either, and it's kinda rockin'. SpongeBob's wielding two spatulas, spinning around like a fool. That looks pretty nice. The trailer even plays the song Ocean Man from the SpongeBob movie about halfway through. Really nice touch. It would have been cool to see Happiness Squared get released with all the cool content that Heavy Iron wanted to include. Wait a second, when did this guy upload the trailer? January 27th, 2010? That's the same day I joined YouTube as coopercastille. Same year, too! Oh my god, you guys. This was destiny. Okay, so you're probably thinking, wait a minute, Cooper, how did we not get a trailer for the third Heavy Iron SpongeBob game until 2010 when it was supposed to come out in 2009? Well, it did come out in 2009. I'm about to get to that. While we didn't get any more information on this Happiness Squared game, another SpongeBob game was being shown off in 2009, which was supposedly going to be based off the TV special of the same name, SpongeBob's Truth or Square, a TV special that is not very good. I'd easily say it's one of the worst post-movie episodes of SpongeBob ever. Probably. I recommend watching Mr. Enter's collab review of the special we did with Pie Guy Rules, because holy hell was that a terrible episode, and for the 10th anniversary of SpongeBob, such a disappointment. I will go into much more detail if I ever find myself talking about the actual SpongeBob show, but the years of 2005 to, say, 2011 were really rough years for SpongeBob. The show seemed to have taken a huge nosedive after the first movie, with the main cause of this being Stephen Hillenburg and even most of the original staff writers leaving the show in 2004 to pursue different ventures. So the show just devolved into this crummy, shallowly written kids show. The sophistication was dead, and the show's heart and soul was just gone. But from what I've seen from the more recent episodes, it does seem like SpongeBob is getting its groove back, with the main reason being Stephen Hillenburg returning to the show in 2013. It's nice to know that SpongeBob isn't so shit anymore, but I'd still say that this is not a cartoon that needed to last 2 decades. By this point, I'm just hoping the show ends before Stephen Hillenburg does. I mean, poor guy. But I am getting severely off topic here. So, this Truth or Square video game, who was developing it? Well, as it turns out, both the Wii and Xbox 360 versions were actually being developed by Heavy Iron Studios, which made SpongeBob's Truth or Square their third and so far last SpongeBob game. That's gotta suck. Aw man. It's really a shame that they were practically forced to make a game based off such a shitty episode. But wait a minute, what happened to Happiness Squared? Where'd that game go? Well, guess what? You're looking right at it. As it turns out, Heavy Iron Studios had been working on SpongeBob Happiness Squared all along, but at some point during development, Nickelodeon told them to change the fucking title to SpongeBob's Truth or Square, thinking it would help the game get more attention as a tie-in to the special. So, Happiness Squared technically did get released, just under a different title. And just like the previous Heavy Iron SpongeBob games, it got released in late October of 2009. Oh, and just 1 week before the actual special aired, by the way. This was a pretty odd development history. I guess I should start actually talking about the game now. So you would assume that since this game is called Truth or Square, then maybe it would follow the same plot as the actual episode. But it doesn't. Thankfully. So as an adaptation, it's pretty bad, but seeing how the original episode wasn't very good, this game's plot having nothing to do with the episode is actually something that works to the game's benefit. Though to be honest, it really would not have helped this game if it was based off the actual episode. Like my friend, acquaintance, person, Jay's Reviews perfectly put it, what the heck would they have made this game's plot about? Crawling through vents? Besides, this game is still technically SpongeBob Happiness Squared, not SpongeBob's Truth or Square. It seriously has no excuse for being called Truth or Square. At all. Neither did the actual episode now that I think about it. So the plot of Happiness Squared involves SpongeBob throwing a party for the 117th anniversary of the Krusty Krab, and Mr. Krabs decides to give SpongeBob the secret formula for safekeeping. Wait, why? However, he misplaces the formula and can't remember where he put it, making him sad. SpongeBob says he needs to be happy in order to remember where he might have put it, and says that they have to find it before Plankton shows up. However, Plankton arrives at SpongeBob's house and says that he could actually help SpongeBob remember where the formula is. Yeah, you could probably see where this is going. So SpongeBob allows Plankton to enter his brain to help him remember where the formula might be. This leads to SpongeBob talking to everyone about memories he's had that'll make him happy, which leads to SpongeBob remembering scenarios from actual episodes, and not just any episodes, but specifically episodes from the first 3 seasons. That's actually a great idea. So after a few references to older episodes, SpongeBob wakes up in the chum bucket and accidentally tells Plankton where he knows where the formula is, and Plankton tries to steal the formula, but SpongeBob stops him and puts the formula back in the Krusty Krab, and wait, that's it? This is where the game ends? That was abruptly short. Okay, so the plot of the Truth or Square game is I guess. I mean, it's fine. Pretty inoffensive material. It's really basic and also kind of forgettable. Unlike the actual episode, which was written by these 4 hacks, the Truth or Square game was actually written by Doug Lawrence, who was one of the original staff writers since season 1 and is also very well known for voicing Plankton. I would say him writing this game would be a good thing, but not to offend him or anything, if he's even watching this. But after the SpongeBob movie, his writing skills really started to slip, and that really affects the writing in this game as well. The jokes really aren't that funny, and most of the best parts of the writing comes from when characters are referencing lines from older episodes. I mean, there are a few and even a funny joke.
Stay away from the tulips!
But that's about it. Who would have thought that the game written by Plankton would end up giving Plankton all the best lines? The voice acting is mostly good. Almost every voice actor from the cartoon are in this game, with the exception of Clancy Brown as Mr. Krabs, but are you honestly surprised by that? So in the Truth or Square game, he's being voiced by Bob Jones, whose voice can range from "that sounded alright" to "oh my god, that's not even close." He's okay, and definitely sounds way better than, say, Joe Whyte in Battle for Bikini Bottom, but it's just, Clancy Brown is the one and only Mr. Krabs. It's sad that Heavy Iron couldn't get him to be in this game. Still, Bob Jones wasn't the worst replacement voice ever.
SpongeBob, look sharp, me boy! Tomorrow's a very important day for Kashi. Think of all the Krabby Patties we'll sell.
By the by, during the special thanks section of the credits, they actually list Clancy Brown's name. Am I the only one who finds that kinda sad? Poor Heavy Iron Studios. Apart from Mr. Krabs, everyone else is being voiced by their original actor, including Mermaid Man. Yeah, Heavy Iron actually managed to get Ernest Borgnine to record a few lines for this game just a few years before he passed away.
Who is this Joker? I can't see too good.
Barnacle boy! Barnacle boy, where are you?
Also, apparently, both this game and Super Sponge on PS1 were the only 2 video games where Ernest actually voiced the Mermaid Man.
See nut butter, tomatoes, jelly.
Why do I have this game? Okay, so every voice actor in this game does a pretty decent job, but I'm not a fan of how Tom Kenny portrayed SpongeBob in this game, and most of the post-movie episodes, to be honest. I don't know, something about SpongeBob's voice here feels so off. It's like Tom is trying way too hard to make SpongeBob sound squeaky and annoying.
Oh my God, Squidward, I feel a memory forming, and you're in it! Remember when you had your first Krabby Patty? Remember that new patty smell? The taste?
He had been voicing this character for 10 years by this point, but I'm sure that this is more the voice director's fault rather than Tom's. It really does take a good voice director to get the same consistently perfect voice from an actor over a long span of time. Unless you're Ryan Drummond as Sonic, then you're just always perfect.
Oh yeah! This is happening! Well, one thing's for sure, we stumbled into a very strange place. Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here. I like running better. Ha! Think I'd miss this? Time to crack that Eggman wide open. Yeah, let's party! Dude, looks like you could use one of these.
Are you planning a new thwarting of any of Eggman's plans or any of that?
Always planning thwarting. See, that's the secret to life. You always gotta have a thwart on the side. Always plan your next thwart. That's from me to you, free of charge.
Take care, and remember,
Sonic is love, Sonic is life.
take care, y'all. Bye-bye.
Well, look at that. You did show up. Nice of you to join me. Hey, so, Tails, you want to split this with me?
Please?
That's what true friends would do.
Thank you, Sonic.
And they all ate chili dogs, and they lived happily ever after.
Yay!
And scene.
I love him. Sorry about that. So overall, the plot of the Truth or Square game is average. Nothing too special or unique. One minor complaint I have about the cutscenes are not just how they're all pre-rendered and compressed looking, but how all of them are apparently in the 4:3 aspect ratio. Why? Like, every main cutscene is like this. I'm fixing the aspect ratio for my review, but the actual game just stretches them to be widescreen, and as someone who enjoys movies and respects aspect ratios, this bothers me. There isn't even an option to have the cutscenes actually play in 16:9. The game is playing just fine in widescreen, so why are all the cutscenes like this? Apparently, it's also the exact same problem on the Xbox 360 version as well. This was 2009. Why weren't the cutscenes in widescreen? Whatever. Enough about the video. Let's talk about the game part of this video game. I guess like the last two games, we should talk about who we could play as. In Battle for Bikini Bottom, we had 3 characters to play as. In the movie game, we had 2. But in the Truth or Square game, we have 1. Which is SpongeBob. What the fuck? I'll be using the classic controller as a demonstration. It's also the best controller to use when playing this game on the Wii. You can use a GameCube controller, but I don't really like how the buttons are mapped. That's another set of worms that I don't want to get into. Anyways, SpongeBob's default attacks are a spatula slam attack if you press Y, and a spin attack if you press A. Later on, he could get the ability to shoot water balloons, which you could aim while holding the X button, and you could fire them at level segments or enemies by letting go of X. There isn't a way to upgrade abilities like the movie game offered, which really stinks. Well, there kind of is, but I'll get to that later. So, as the only playable character, SpongeBob is alright. He controls really well and still has his double jump from the last 2 games. Oh wait, Plankton is also a playable character, but he's only available for the second player and even uses the Wii Motion Plus for some reason. He can aim and shoot at enemies. That's basically it. I couldn't really get any good multiplayer footage for my review since I couldn't get anyone to help me record, so oh well. I'm an incredibly awkward person, and I often like to avoid having contact with other people because I'm a fucking weirdo, and this unfortunately has led to me to not ask people for help for videos, which also meant I couldn't get any decent multiplayer footage for this game, even though I probably could have easily just asked someone for help, but because I am just a fucking dumbass, I did not ask for help, so sorry. And to go on a bit of a side tangent, I actually bought this copy of SpongeBob's Truth or Square from an actual gaming store, and I felt really fucking nervous doing that. Like for Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game, I bought those off eBay, like I said in my reviews, but I actually went to a play and trade and found this copy of SpongeBob's True for Square, and this was about a year ago, and I was just like, okay, one day whenever I do reviews, I want to look at all the Heavy Iron SpongeBob games, and I got the Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game like a few years ago, but last year at Play and Trade, I saw this copy of SpongeBob's True for Square, and I decided, okay, I'll buy this, and I have fucking terrible anxiety all the time, and I assumed that if I walked up to the cash register, the person working the cash register, and I gave him, I want to get this, SpongeBob's True for Square, maybe he'd make fun of me like, what? That's a fucking kid's game, how fucking old are you? And I don't know why I was afraid of him doing that, and what actually happened was, I just handed him the copy, and then he said, okay, is this all you need? And I went, yeah. Then I paid for it, and I left. So I guess that's all I wanted to say about that. That's how I got my copy of this, and was able to do this little SpongeBob marathon. And if I could also say something else to people who might be suffering from anxiety like I usually do, if you ever find yourself in a similar situation like I was in, where you're buying like a kid's game from a public place like a gaming store or whatever, and you do end up coming across someone who does make fun of you for buying a kid's game, fuck them. You don't play video games to be mature. If you have to prove to the world that you're mature by playing mature video games, you're a fucking loser, okay? It doesn't matter what type of video games you play, okay? Even if it's something that's supposed to be for kids. You're never too old for entertainment, alright? That's all video games are. Interactive escapism. Why the fuck should we treat it like you have to be a specific age to play specific type of games? I mean, there are adult-only type of games and early childhood games, but you don't fucking see those in stores anywhere, so why would that matter? But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. It's just, fuck people who don't get video games, I guess. Moving on to something else, the level design. It's honestly the biggest highlight in this game. Almost all the levels contain a sort of free-roaming style like Battle for Bikini Bottom offered, while also being more straightforward and linear like the movie game levels were. True for Square is a really weird combination of both those games in terms of level design and aesthetics, which I'll get to later. It kinda reminds me of when Sonic Adventure's levels were more open-ended, then Adventure 2 made the levels way more linear, but then Sonic Heroes tries to combine both those concepts as sort of a twist. It's basically the same mentality that happened with Heavy Iron SpongeBob games. Why do I keep going back to Sonic the Hedgehog? This isn't the best level design out of all the games, but I do favor Heavy Iron for at least trying something different. However, there is one aspect about the levels that sort of bring all of them down, and it's probably for a really unfortunate reason. First of all, this is an insanely short game. There's only 10 levels. Well, 7 actual levels and 3 main boss fights to be exact. What the hell? Battle for Bikini Bottom was a full-fledged 8-hour game. The movie game was shorter, but it still clocked in about 6 hours, but the True for Square game? Just 2. 2 fucking hours. Are you shitting me? I guess this is where the most obvious aspect about True for Square's development rears its ugly head, which is budget cuts. Huge budget cuts. I think it becomes most clear just by looking at the game. All the levels that we end up going through are all based off happy memories that SpongeBob has had, which are inspired by actual episodes from the show. So in the game, we actually end up going back to levels from older Heavy Iron games like Jellyfish Fields, the Kelp Forest, the Merma Lair, and even Rock Bottom. Though there are about 2 or 3 new levels made just for this game, like Karate Island and the Krusty Krab Freezer. There are also levels made for boss fights, but I'll get to that later on. It's really easy to assume that maybe because of the obvious budget cuts, perhaps Heavy Iron had to reuse assets from the last 2 games. Which is partially true, but I wouldn't completely say that's what they did. We do head back to older levels, but they're more remade or reimagined assets rather than ones that were just reused. Though I'm sure a few things from the older games got brought back, like the character models maybe, but the level environments are given a new paint job. It's kind of like what Sonic Mania is doing by remixing older levels into the game. Fucking stop talking about Sonic! So the levels were all revamped for this game for budgetary reasons. I'm about 95% sure this game isn't using the renderware engine like the last 2 games, mainly because apparently that's exclusively owned by EA now. Fucking EA. But the game engine Heavy Iron did a really good job. I'd easily say this is the best looking SpongeBob game that Heavy Iron ever made. The levels are all just as, if not more colorful as the last two games, and there's also this really fantastic lighting system. Like seriously, it looks really fucking good. This makes every level look downright gorgeous most of the time. The lights are just reflecting off everything, and it creates so many dynamic shapes and shadows. Just look at the beams of light in Jellyfish Fields. Look at how bright the lava appears in Rock Bottom. It's glowing so red and beautiful. Then when we get to the Merma lair, the lighting here is pretty dang sexy. Yeah, that's the word I'm using to describe this. I really like all the attention to detail thrown into this game graphically, and the lighting system is a huge highlight for this game's art style. And you guys should probably know by this point, but I'm a sucker for awesome lighting systems in video games. Unless this is the first video for me that you're watching, then, hi, I'm Cooper. I like good lighting systems in video games. Thanks for stopping by. Please subscribe. Back to the actual levels. Almost all of them are about reaching the end of the level to either fight a swarm of enemies or the occasional mini-boss. Actually, fighting enemies is one of the main things you do in this game, all the time. This game really likes to throw a ton of enemies at you just so you could progress through the levels. It gets incredibly repetitive, which is one of this game's biggest flaws. However, the game does throw in some things to change the levels up a bit. This leads us to the three main power-ups. First up is the Muscle SpongeBob power-up, which gives SpongeBob a much stronger stomp attack and spin attack. Unlike the other two power-ups, you can actually keep this upgrade, at least until you get hit by an enemy. So it basically operates like a mushroom from Mario. And this power-up is also required to use in certain level segments. The second power-up is an invincibility power-up, which you don't really come across that often. The only one I can really remember using is the one in the Merma lair. I guess it's kinda situational. Whatever. Then there's the third power-up, which may make you turn your head a bit. This is what I like to call the character power-up. The hell is that? Well, it's a variety power-up that when picked up by SpongeBob, he'll actually turn into a different character for a short bit. I'm not joking. Whatever character you can morph into depends on what's inside the life preserver icon. If it's a hammer, you'll turn into Patrick. If it's yellow karate gloves, you'll turn into Sandy. And if it's a clarinet, well, you'll turn into Squidward. Whenever you change into either one of them, they'll become invincible and can be used to smash their way through various enemies in a matter of seconds. So they're basically a much improved invincibility power-up. This is only temporary though, because after like, I wanna say 10 seconds, you'll end up changing back into SpongeBob. I don't know how to describe how I feel about this. Why did I word it like that? It is a really useful invincibility move, but at what cost did it have to be in this game? These brief moments are technically the only times where we get to play as Patrick or Sandy. When I said I wanted Sandy to come back in the next game, this isn't what I had in mind. But hey, for the fans who wanted to play as Squidward, you can do it in this game, but just for 10 seconds. Are you happy? Also, this game pointlessly has a life system. I didn't even notice it until I had to write notes for this review. But by the end of the game, I had like 40 lives and was completely unaware or even afraid of getting a game over. This game is way too easy for me to risk getting a game over. I rarely ever died. Why does this game even have a life system? The last two games didn't have one. Actually, yeah, I do think my biggest complaint for this game is that it's far too easy. It feels very dumbed down in comparison to the last two games. Now before you tell me, well, it's a kid's game, Cooper, fuck off. Also, Planktopoulos would like to have a word with you. I'm really not sure if I should blame Heavy Iron Studios from their short budget constraints, or maybe they were just losing their touch with this game. It's so repetitive, easy, and short. It's not a platformer game that's trying to stick out, unlike Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game, which both certainly tried to, which for Truth or Square is kind of ashamed. Okay, how's the music for this game? Well, did you like the soundtracks for both Battle for Bikini Bottom and the SpongeBob movie game? Guess what? That's all you're getting. Yeah, another sign of budget cuts. Heavy Iron Studios was forced to just reuse several tracks from their last two games. Not only that, but much like what the show did, they even had to rely on the APM music selection at some cases. That's so sad. I do like how I get to hear all my favorite songs from Battle for Bikini Bottom make a return. Hell, Downtown Bikini Bottom plays during the end credits for this game. But I still feel kinda bad that Heavy Iron Studios couldn't get Sabre Music to come back, or just get any other video game composer to make new tracks for this game. This is such a shameful game. To be honest, that's kind of what it feels like just playing this game. Shame. There are stuff here that I could highlight, but just playing through this game feels kind of unsatisfying. It's fun, but it's not as fun as the last two SpongeBob games. I feel so weird reviewing this game because I feel like there's nothing new for me to mention or talk about. It's like I'm reviewing filler. SpongeBob's filler. How are the boss fights? They're different, but easy. So easy. They're all so easy to figure out, and they always repeat the same patterns, making every single fight become really short. Now, I'm not saying just because these bosses are easy that they're also bad, because they're really not. The mini-bosses are kinda lame, but I did get a kick out of the returning Patrick robot, and we even get a new Robot Squidward boss fight. This boss is pretty interesting, especially since Heavy Iron planned to have a Robot Squidward since Battle for Bikini Bottom. It almost feels like redemption that they finally got to make a Robot Squidward boss fight. Just a shame it's really repetitive and easy. There's also a boss fight with the Robot Chum Bucket. In concept, it is pretty cool, but in execution, it completely caught me off guard. However, for different reasons that I'm about to get to. The boss has two different styles of gameplay, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say. During the boss, you're going to be jumping from rooftop to rooftop while fighting enemies again, then you end up entering the robot to smash up its robo-heart, and you of course have to do this 3 times. I like the concept of this boss fight, and when I first played it, I thought it was pretty cool. However, what caught me off guard with this boss was that after I beat it, the game ended. What? That was the final boss? Are you kidding me? I actually thought this game was just getting started. It was a pretty meh experience overall. It actually did take me a while to sit down and play through this whole game. So whenever I got to the Chum Bucket boss fight, I actually thought, oh cool, a decent boss fight. Maybe this game is finally about to get good. What the heck? It's over? Are you... really? Yes, this is where the game ends. This is your final impression of the third and the last SpongeBob game to be developed by Heavy Iron Studios, the same company that made 2 really solid and great SpongeBob games. This is how their last game ends. I feel so depressed. The extra content in this game are okay. The game's main hub area is inside of SpongeBob's house. You can walk around, talk to a few characters, input cheats on the shell phone. 3141 is a great cheat. It gives you 500 happiness nuggets, which are basically the currency in this game. And there's even a TV where you could view concept art that you could unlock in levels. We get to see a lot of concept art for this game, and even a few screenshots from older episodes, which kinda take me back. The APM music playing during these little slideshows also make it feel a bit more emotional for me. I didn't really plan on the review to go or even end this way. SpongeBob's Truth or Square, or SpongeBob Happiness Squared, whatever you want to call it, is a little underwhelming. There are some decent highlights, the controls are pretty solid, the graphics are pretty decent, and the lighting system is amazing, but the budget cuts made towards this game become so obvious in a lot of areas. As a result, Truth or Square the game just feels like a tired rehash of the last 2 games. Heavy Iron was most certainly trying their best with this game, but Nickelodeon really dropped the ball for them. This game is the same old platforming SpongeBob related shtick. It's really sad to see Heavy Iron Studios fall from grace, especially since they were very passionate about making these games since the very beginning. SpongeBob's Truth or Square didn't stir up much attention when it was released in 2009. Supposedly it sold over 1 million copies, but almost nobody talked about this game. Nobody really cared about it, and there were barely any reviews of this game to be found. And even the few professional reviewers who looked at this game gave it some pretty low scores. Actually, I'm probably one of the only actual people to do a decent review of this game. I don't have a fucking life. There's nothing special about Truth or Square the game. It's a very difficult game for me to recommend because I don't know how to do so. kids will most definitely get a kick out of it, but even the last two games I'd recommend to older players who love platforming collectathons. I guess if you really liked Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game, and you also always hope that in some shape or form that Heavy Iron Studios would make another SpongeBob game, then I guess try out Truth or Square. It's not a bad game at all, but if there's any SpongeBob game that I'm going to recommend trying out, it's still going to be Battle for Bikini Bottom. Quite honestly, still the best SpongeBob game I have ever played. Truth or Square, I will give you credit where credit is due. You tried, but not hard enough. I bid my hat to you, and also to Heavy Iron Studios. 6.5 out of 10. And so we end our little SpongeBob marathon, and now we can move on to do other things. And when it comes to Heavy Iron, I guess they're busy nowadays with, you know, Disney Infinity and whatever. So they're keeping themselves occupied because Nickelodeon is probably never going to give them the rights to make another SpongeBob game ever again, which is kind of a shame. Though an excellent point brought up by my friend Jay, the other Jay. Yeah, that Jay. He said whenever that second SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, came out, then they made a video game based off of that. He said that would have been the perfect time to bring back Heavy Iron to make a new SpongeBob game, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Thanks, Nickelodeon. So I guess a closing thing I could say about Truth or Square, or Happiness Squared as it's actually supposed to be called, it's not that great. But I will say, Happiness Squared is a way better 10th anniversary special for SpongeBob than Truth or Square was. Hands down. I guess one last thing I can mention is how every copy of SpongeBob's Truth or Squared has a different SpongeBob face on it. Like, the face on the Wii cover is not on the Xbox 360 cover, which is so fucking weird that they did that. And, I mean, it's nice. I like that they did that, but it's really weird. But whatever, we are done with SpongeBob, at least until, I don't know, whenever, but I'm done talking about this yellow sponge, and we're just gonna move on from him to do whatever. So next time on Cooper's Perspective, we are going to be looking at another set of video games based off another really well-known IP, all developed by another specific gaming company. The only thing I'll tell you guys about it now is it's based off someone who can do whatever a spider can. I am the fucking king at alluding to shit. Hey everyone, I figured I would actually narrate the end card this time, and I might do this for the rest of the videos because, you know, YouTube has like those end cards at the end, like the last 20 seconds of the video, so I can't really end all my reviews, you know, movie-like, you know, with movie-styled end credits and whatever. So I'm actually recording this right after I finished like editing the entire review, and oh my god, I did not expect this to be my longest SpongeBob review. I seriously thought this was going to be shorter than the last two, but that was Paco flying on top of my head. But yeah, this ended up being the longest SpongeBob review, like 32 minutes, like Jesus Christ. But I just wanted to say thank you for watching this if you did, and I also, just a few days ago, I saw that I passed 2,000 subscribers, which is pretty awesome. Thank you everyone for getting me to this landmark, I guess. So thank you so much. I can't really say thank you enough about that, because that really is awesome that I made it this far. We're just 98,000 left until that silver play button. We can get there. Come on, guys, please. But just thank you for that. Thank you for getting me there. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do anything for it. I want to do a live stream, but I'm not completely sure what game I want to stream, and even then my computer has kind of been acting up these past few days, so I'm not sure if the stream's gonna be possible. But we'll see. Just, you know, again, thank you for 2,000 subscribers. That's really awesome. I appreciate every single one of you, and just thank you so much. Thank you. I guess, like, I just wanted to say I didn't think this review was, like, amazing or anything. I thought it was kind of a mess. I'm not sure how you guys are gonna think of it, to be honest, but hopefully you guys will like it. I mean, I think the bits with Ryan Drummond were probably a bit too much, I guess. Also, the live action stuff went on a little too long. Funnily enough, the day I'm recording this, which is hopefully the day this gets uploaded, someone left a comment on my Sonic Unleashed review who was basically annoyed that I kept praising Ryan Drummond and the rest of the adventure actors. So hopefully he didn't watch this review because he's going to get very irritated by that. One kind of interesting factoid I wanted to mention was that I didn't mean to get the movie game review to take so long to come out, but I ended up uploading it on June 18th, and hopefully the Truth or Square review will be up on June 30th. And I just wanted to say, my Sonic Heroes review was uploaded on October 18th, and my Shadow the Hedgehog review was uploaded on October 30th. So I guess history kind of repeated itself here. Yeah, it's not that important. I just felt like telling you guys. But thank you for watching this review of the SpongeBob SquarePants Truth or Square video game, which this is probably the only 32-minute review of this game you'll ever find on YouTube, so thank you for stopping by, and the end cards should be popping up right now. Paco's with me. Do you have anything to say, Paco? Paco? Nope, he's quiet. Yeah, thanks for watching. Take care.